Hi, I'm Angela, and we are on to video 5 of the video series for your team. And in the first two videos, we talked about the 6 objections that always invariably come up, either the 3 satisfied objections or the 3 no benefit objections. Then we went into agreeing that it's always best to preempt those objections rather than having to handle them when they come up. So how do you preempt them? How do you set a stronger foundation of trust and immediately, right out of the gate, position you with a business owner as an advisor in an advisory role rather than as a marketing rep or a media rep? And the reason for that is, of course, you're pulled into the decision-making process much sooner. You're then in the creation part of the process with them, in the collaboration part of the process, rather than the relegating part of the process where they've already put their plans together and built the strategy, and you're just one of the pieces that helps execute it. Not that profitable to be in that place. You want to move yourself up the rungs of that ladder, and in order to do that, you have to ask better questions, and you can't immediately jump into the media and marketing sandbox. Once you've laid those 5 or 6 foundational questions, then you can begin to hold their hand and walk into marketing first, then media. And so right now, we're still on marketing questions. The first 6 of the 21 CNA questions were about the why. Is it to change a perception? Is it to enhance your present image? Is it to create immediate action? Is it to generate awareness, move your business into the preference phase within a marketplace? Or are you striving for that big leap, that leap of being number one, of being insistent, in the insistence mode where everyone insists upon your business over everyone else? That's the position everyone wants, right? So those are the 6 why. Now we're on to the 5 who. Once you've established why they want to tell their story and have created a sense of urgency for them, that it's important to tell that story and to tell it now and move forward, who are you going to tell that story to? So the very first thing is, of course, everyone wants to say, well, we get everybody. And we all know that that spells disaster. There isn't a single generation that exists that buys based on the same exact life experience or buying criteria as another. So when someone says our demo is 2554, that's a family reunion. That is not a smart way to tell your story. Why? When was the last time a 54-year-old bought something the same way that a 25-year-old does? I mean, their entire denominator for life and their criteria, how they see the world, is so vastly different. So what you want to do and we're going to walk them through those generations and those lifestyles, the psychographics and demographics of that. But first you want to find out 80-20, and this is called the Pareto principle. Many of you have probably already heard this. 80% of your results come from 20% of the target, or 80 of your efforts. 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. And I guarantee you, if you looked at all the things that you sell, okay, 80% of the revenue that you generate, I mean, it could be 70, 75, etc., but it's disproportionate is the point. 80% of it is really coming from 20% of your core, most profitable products. So we apply that same principle to the marketplace from the consumer segment standpoint. So if we were to say, do you believe that in the Pareto principle, let's establish the fact that 80% of your business is going to come really from 20% of your customer base. And Mr. or Mrs. Advertiser, if you took your entire list of transactions from the previous year or your entire customer base, you have a VIP list of customers. 20% of your customer base is generating 80% of your revenue. It exists wherever you apply it. So what we want to do is we want to discover that 20%. This is customer insights. You see? This is customer insights right here. So discovering that 80-20 and having that conversation, that's where you can, you don't want to jump into your products, selling them your products, but understand this is laying the foundation for that, for it to make sense to them later on. So get agreement that there's this disproportionate core audience or core customer base that generates the lion's share of the business. They would tell you that of their sales team as well. If we looked even, for example, at enterprise, if we looked at all of the sales teams and the sales revenue, there's usually, out of 10 people, there's usually 3 or so that are making up a disproportionate amount of the revenue. It's just how it works. And so you want to get them understanding the 80-20 principle and working toward identifying the most profitable portion of their customer segments. Okay? How do you do that? Now, once you've gotten them to buy into the concept, you must lay out a generational roadmap. And I'm going to provide you, again, this tool on paper so you understand what it looks like. But essentially what it does is it breaks the generations down. So it has your millennials, and then it has Gen Y, and then it has Gen X, and then it has baby boomers, and then it has age waivers. Okay? And what it also links them up with is it shows them were their heroes growing up. What, from a technology standpoint, do they understand or appreciate? What did they grow up with? What do they assume is just part of the world? What wars were going on? What music was mainstream? What is the general customer sentiment about advertising and marketing? It shifts. It has shifted over the ages. So my mom, for example, is predisposed differently to marketing messages in general than Jax, for example, who is a millennial, or my daughter, who's 16. So understanding those generational gaps, and then you actually get them to start playing with this visual and saying, well, I might have a little bit of overlap, so circle right here. These are, if I could get these kinds of customers all day long, oh yeah, it would change the complexion of my business dramatically. That's what you want. So the first of the 5 who questions is 80-20. Second is generationally age. And you also want them to then, third, is what percentage is male to female? Fourth is talking about psychographics, okay? Psychographics and trends. Trends within the industry, shifting, things that are happening. We're going through this right now with EarQ, for example, where there's a particular trend and an opportunity in the marketplace that although these are not their customers currently, the elderly are, that they see an opportunity to own a younger demographic that is in need, that is being underserved and undereducated as it relates to this particular product. So trends and the psychographics, the lifestyles of these individuals, and then ultimately specialization. Are there areas within these customer segments that you can really speak to? For example, in EarQ, we've identified a few specializations: musicians, young urban professionals, and farmers. Figuring out those personas of people that you can speak to and therefore generate a very specific story for. And the more specific the story, people think, oh, I'm excluding all these people. The more specific the story, the better the chance you have to resonate. You cannot be all things to all people. And if you try to be, you just end up being vanilla to everybody. Generalizing does not work. Highly specializing does. So those are the 5 who. And the next set, or the next part, we're going to talk about how. We're still in marketing right now. We're not into media yet. You haven't even mentioned a single one of your products yet. And you've asked a lot of questions so far, right? You've laid 5 or 6 foundational business/trust advisory questions. Then you moved into 6 why marketing questions. Now you're moving into 5 who marketing questions. And the next video will deal with 4 how marketing questions. And then we'll move into media, and then after that we'll bring it full circle with message and story. So see you then.